Today, December the 10th, 72 years ago, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was published at a conference in Paris. It was a very simple document of about 30 statements that are the basis of most liberal democratic societies: the right to life, the right to freedom, the right to free speech, the right to health care, the right to all the things that we take for granted. Today we've presented the Northern Ireland office with 15,000 signatures that we want them to reflect perhaps on what this declaration means for people in this part of the world. Over the last number of years we've seen many of these rights trampled upon and many of these rights simply ignored or jettisoned for political convenience. This campaign does not seek revenge, does not even in the main seek prosecution. All it seeks, as the name suggests, is that we get to the truth of the murder of our families and victims over the last 30 or 40 years. Specifically, on December the 10th today, I ask you to reflect: is it fair, do you think, that a solicitor is murdered by the state and nobody seems to care? That same government that were instrumental in many of these killings now want to wash their hands? Is there indeed anything more dignified? Have you ever seen anything more dignified than Geraldine Finucane and her family over the last few weeks crying out for justice? Is it fair, for example, too, that in this day and age we have people who've been injured 40, 45 years ago, chronically injured physically and chronically injured psychologically, that we still dither 20, 30 years later in giving them paltry sums of money simply because politically it's inconvenient in the eyes of many, many people? If the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is to be anything, it has to apply to everybody, regardless of their religion, their ethnicity, their sexual preference or their skin colour. And today, on December the 10th, 2020, we celebrate the Declaration of Human Rights, and we ask people, and we ask this government in particular, to honour its responsibilities, that it was not it was a keen player in this conflict, and it has a duty to bring many of these issues to an end and to tell one simple word: the truth.
In the aftermath of the Good Friday Agreement and the subsequent agreements, the Andrews and the Stormont House Agreement, there was a recognition of the importance played by political prisoners in relation to the establishment and the maintenance of the peace process. I'm a former political prisoner. I'm also a victim. 5 years after my release from prison, I was attacked by the PSNI. There was a court case and there was compensation. The police ombudsman investigated and they confirmed that I was a peacekeeper as opposed to be a protagonist. I was receiving financial assistance and emotional assistance from the Victims and Survivors Trust that had been set up in 2006. In 2020, 31st of January, the British government unilaterally decided, by creating a bad law, that I was no longer a victim. So I've been a victim since 2006. Now, as a result of this, I'm no longer a victim. And I call upon all those campaigners who are campaigning for victims' rights, all those politicians and all those who have an interest, to come out on this day, World Human Rights Day, and fight for all victims, not just some victims.